Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the FlyX podcast. We are back again. Slightly shorter break this time. The last one was when was it? It was when I went on holiday, so it was February, I think. Do you think?
Was it?
I think
I know
February.
I know there was a long gap between number one and two, and then now we've
Yeah,
got number three.
yeah. Well, anyway, yes. This is Doofer, as before.
Hello, hello.
We're back and doing another episode of the podcast. You may notice this one is a little bit longer, um, because there's a lot to cover. There's a lot of big stuff to cover, including some good stuff and including some less good stuff. Let's say. Um, so basically what I'll have done as well is put some timestamps in the description because I realise that some of you might not find certain stories that interesting. You might want to skip ahead. So I'll have just put them there. I'll sift through the content to find when we start talking about each thing and put a timestamp to that. But first of all is something that I want to talk about. It's the Quality Wings 787. This was announced about 650 billion years ago. However, they have just said that they're going to be releasing it summer 2017, so obviously summer this year. So that's within the next few months, basically. Very, very soon. For me, this is the most anticipated for me, it's like the most anticipated add-on. I know it's not in general, but the 787 is personally my favourite aircraft. I've always wanted a decent version of it for Flight Sim, and it looks like, looking by the videos and pictures and reviews and stuff, it looks like it could be quite good. So yeah, have you seen much on it?
I haven't seen much like media or kind of I've just been like looking at screenshots very quickly, but I haven't seen any videos or nothing. Yeah, I mean I'm excited as well. It's one of the it's probably going to be the most modern kind of most one of the newest aircraft that's going to be released out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, as for like Quality Wings as a company, like, are they? Do you know if they're like a good developer? Are they like highly detailed, like sim, like study level sim kind of level, or are they a bit more simple?
They're,
I mean,
they're a bit more on the simple side, like how their saying used to be, uh, like simulation simplified or something like that.
okay,
But they have stated many times. One of them was Cosford 2015, where they did like a talk there. They stated that they've definitely not gone down this route of the 787. And from the looks of the videos I've seen, I saw a video earlier of someone's taking it from cold and dark to takeoff, and it looked pretty in depth, like the FMC fully operational. Okay, there may be some features missing from the real FMC, obviously, but it should have enough to get you by. So SIDS, stars, legs, holds, perf data, V speed, everything like that that you use in
good stuff.
regular flight. It should have. Might be missing some of the more complex stuff, but for someone like me that could be considered on the noob side, compared to some simmers out there, I think I'll find it perfectly flyable
Well,
as
yeah,
the
yeah. I
aircraft.
mean, I'm looking at sort of the feature list on the Quality Wings website just now, and it looks like it's kind of they're saying all the right things there. Like they got full animations for landing gear, control surfaces, flaps, and APU doors and
Yeah,
inlets and all sorts. So
yeah. Also, do you
and
know about the electronic flight bag?
no, I know what one is. I don't know. Are they fully modeling one for
I'm
the
not sure about
787 then?
I'm not sure about fully realistically modeling it, but them having an attempt at modeling it, and I know it's going to include charts,
Okay.
and not charts that you put in with a PDF or anything. Charts that it automatically generates from data, basically.
Ooh, that could be interesting.
Yeah. So it takes that airport data and like sort of SID and star data and automatically generates it through that. Not sure how
Yeah.
that's going to work. Maybe it's some remote airports, but mind you, with a 787, you're mostly going to be flying to sort of quite large airports like Heathrow, JFK, LA. So,
Yeah.
I mean, most of
No,
the time
that's
it should be pretty good.
I kind of suspected that that would be one of the biggest challenges developing that aircraft because it's it's such a modern aircraft and because it's it's pretty like the glass cockpit displays are really dominant in the 787 from what I've seen and what I understand of the aircraft.
Yeah.
So to have to kind of accurately represent, the likes of like the ground maps and how those are going to work, and being able to zoom in on taxiways and runways and ground maps and stuff.
Yeah, but apparently they've modelled that, and from what I've seen, it's well, I know it's modelled it, but from what I've seen, it looks pretty good. I mean, it looks really accurate, to be honest.
Cool. I mean, yeah, and imagine also sort of getting access to Boeing and getting access to a 787, is going to be fairly tricky as well.
Yeah.
Given how like new and modern the aircraft is, and obviously Boeing are going to want to keep some secrets. So,
yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I can excuse them taking so long to develop it, but
yeah.
No, I mean, if you're saying that all of the kind of the media that you've seen looks good, and like I said, like just looking at the feature list, that all looks good. So
yeah. So at the moment, this is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah. I mean, it's definitely an aircraft that I'm going to look to pick up after release as well.
Yeah, I think I've been waiting for this for so long. I think I'll, as soon as I see the buy now, I will spam that 1,000,000 times. No, but what I was gonna say is, I think it's, I don't. You've got the website in front of you. Can you see what it's releasing on? I've just got the Facebook page.
They don't say on the actual product page.
Okay.
It just says the product is currently in development. So,
well, I believe it's releasing on FSX, SE. That's the munition. P3D V, I think it's V2 and 3. Not sure about, well, 4 spoilers. That's what we're talking about next. So yeah, it should work on most sims. Although I know they're releasing the -8 and -9 versions, but they're also releasing a -10. But I think that might be a staggered release. I think they're releasing that like another time, like PMDG did with the 777-300.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because on the website it's 787-8 and -9. And yeah, they've got the system requirements here. It says MS Flight Simulator 10 Service Pack 2. So it doesn't say anything about Steam Edition on the website, but I imagine, most FSX players have moved across to Steam Edition by now. But it looks like those of you who haven't are still on Boxed Edition. As long as you've got Service Pack 2 installed, you should be okay.
Yeah.
And then it just says LM Lockheed Martin Prepare 3D, so it doesn't give the version of Prepared.
Ah, okay.
But it says like requirements related to system to performance to be determined. So,
well, I mean,
I'm sure.
I was
going to say,
yeah. Sorry,
sorry,
you stepped on each other.
Okay, yeah. I'm pretty sure that they like version 3 is pretty much guaranteed. Maybe like they'll like obviously with version 4 being announced, I'm sure they'll be able to make some tweaks and some concessions to get it working with version 4 as well. And then ultimately, I don't know if it'll be available immediately on release, but I'm sure that they'll have a version 4 or prepared version 4 aircraft ready to go as well at some point.
Yeah, I might be able to cover something about that once I. Just got. No, they've not said anything about it working on P3D V4 yet, so I don't know. But yeah, I assume they will do something. It'd be silly to not update it to work on it. But yeah, I'm definitely really looking forward to that. It seems like it's going to be an amazing aircraft. It should be very very interesting to fly something with like fully glass like cockpit. I imagine I don't actually. Let me look at a picture of one. But I imagine the flight deck, like the instruments are larger, like the numbers and stuff. I
believe so. Yeah, I know that the like the primary flight display and the nav displays are huge.
Yeah. Because people have asked before. This is good because people have asked before on my videos and stuff. Why I always have the cameras so far zoomed in? It's so I can actually see like the altitude readout. Because otherwise I'd have to like. Look, with my bad eyes, I'd have to put my head like against the screen to see it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Looking at this cockpit, they've got like one screen dedicated to be your primary flight display, and then the second sort of screen is kind of a merge between the nav display and an ECAS. So it's kind of got two in one.
I tell you, the only thing I don't like about that cockpit, the FM. It's not a standard like CDU.
Ah, yeah, I see what you mean.
I don't like the
It's
idea
like
of
a
having like part of it on a screen and part of it like on a kit. It seems weird.
well, I think it's I think that's like just the FMS kind of being modernized more than anything else. Because
Yeah,
if you look at the FMS from the likes of a 737 or a 747, it's kind of like it's like almost like an old computer in a way, like an old computer screen where you have to type in commands manually and stuff.
yeah,
You've got the green text and that. Whereas you look at the new one, you got a kind of you've got an FMC which is bringing up full checklists and stuff, so pilots don't have to refer to paper
yeah,
checklists. So I think it's just a modernization.
yeah. It just seems a little
Yeah, I
weird.
mean, I see what you mean. It has like there's a like for those of you who are just listening in, we're both looking at cockpit pictures. Basically, it's like a standard keypad on the left hand side of the center console, and then you've got one big display in the middle, which is going to be giving you checklists information and also FMS data and stuff like that. So
Yeah, well,
um,
I'll actually put up a picture on screen now so they can see.
perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah, so rather than having like the screen and then the keyboard underneath, you've got the keyboard to one side and then the screen in the middle. So
yeah,
I don't think it's. I mean, I think it's just kind of natural progress and evolution of how
yeah.
aircraft are being designed. So
I know in real life the screen. I always thought they were like touch screen, but no, it's actually controlled by a little sort of trackpad thing.
yeah,
You've got like a little trackpad to control it. That just seems really awkward. Like in the real life, obviously in flight sim, you'll just click. Well, you just click sort of where the buttons are on the screen, and it clicks
mhm.
them. But it just seems weird having like a trackpad to control that in the real thing.
Not sure. I mean, I know that don't like certain like fancy cars have that sort of thing. Like, don't they
Oh,
have like a kind of a knob or some sort of
I'm not sure.
joystick type control to control media centers and that?
Hmm.
Um,
Maybe. Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, I know that like laptops have it. They've got like a little kind of
Yeah,
it's almost like
trackpad.
a little button that acts like a joystick, so you
Oh, you
can
mean the
move it
the
back.
the beautifully named nipple switch?
Yeah, that that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's one on my I've got an X55 and there's actually one on the side of the throttle on that. I wonder if there'd be a way to actually like map that to control the cursor.
possibly,
That'd be fun.
possibly.
That might be good. But yeah,
But don't they have that in the 777? Oh,
I'm not sure. Yeah, they do actually. Yeah, I think they do because they have like the checklist system.
yeah.
So yeah, they do. Yeah, but in the PMDG, it's just sort of clicking on the screen again. So yeah,
No, I mean, like I said, I'm excited because it's like such a modern aircraft. It's going to be a lot different to anything that anyone's flown before.
yeah.
So if they've really kind of nailed,
So cool.
and if it's a really in-depth simulation of a 787, then it should be quite a new and refreshing experience, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it's what they call study level per se, but I think it's more between sort of how the Aerosoft Airbus is
Yeah,
sort of between that and a PMDG product. I think it is.
it's
Um,
just about right, I'd say.
and, yeah, and I mean people knock the Aerosoft Airbus now. The FS Labs has come out, but they're completely different products. You can't really compare them. I think I actually mentioned I mentioned this in the last podcast. But the Aerosoft, I mean, it served us all well. Well, for those who have the FS Labs now, even though I prefer the FS Labs, the Aerosoft still sort of served me well for many years. It worked perfectly well all the time, and yeah, so
Yeah, I mean, I'll always stand by my comment that the Aerosoft Airbus is an ideal aircraft for anyone who's maybe transitioning into flying like
yeah,
a commercial jet type of aircraft for the first time. Airbuses, naturally are just easier to fly because they automate a lot more things. Um, and yeah, like even me, I'm a fairly experienced simmer now, but like even jumping into the PMDG, like I still feel quite overwhelmed with just like how much more you have to do
oh yeah,
in a Boeing compared to an Airbus. But yeah, like the Aerosofts, even though it is a simplified version of an Airbus, it's still like it's still ideal if you for a beginner getting into commercial jet type
yeah,
aircraft. It's like I'll always say it's an ideal
yeah,
aircraft to fly.
yeah. We've actually got a bit of Airbus news in a bit, but first I want to talk about P3D version 4. It was announced like a month ago, but they've confirmed that it's going to release. Okay, when you're watching this podcast, it will have been released on the 30th. But from us, we're recording this on the 29th at 22:21. If you're interested, tomorrow it's gonna release. I think 5 p.m. But I don't know why I'm saying this because it's weird. It's in the past tense, but
Time travel.
Yeah.
Don't mess with time travel.
What's the future like? No. But yeah, so it's basically what that adds, what version 4 adds is 64-bit. It's took 8 years to develop. Lockheed Martin have spent 8 years developing it. I'm not sure if they've completely redone the engine, but they've definitely improved it and brought it up to 64-bit quality, basically. If you don't know the advantages of 64-bit, I'll briefly explain now. Basically, if you've ever been flying to Heathrow's a good example, where there's a lot of scenery, particularly if it's like Aerosoft or UK 2000 and it's like high res, then what happens is obviously that uses more of your computer's memory up. And if you exceed, with a 32-bit application, if you exceed 4 gigabytes of memory, you get something called an OOM. You may have seen it before. It's a little sort of box notification thing on the screen, and basically you click OK, and then PPD or FSX closes, and your flight is screwed if you don't have autosave. So yeah, it's been a major problem, and it has led me to throw my headphones down and walk off from the computer many a time. But with 64-bit, PPD can use all of your computer's RAM. So it's not unlimited, because if you only got like 8 gigabytes, then it can only use 8 gigabytes, obviously. But you're probably not going to exceed 8 gigabytes worth of stuff. The problem is it can dump, PPD can dump memory, but the problem when you get OOMs, the problem is it's not dumping it quick enough. That's basically what's happening. So even if you've got 8, and obviously you're going to reach, you can reach that 8, but it'll have dumped memory. So it's hard to explain. Basically, it's like having a glass with a hole in the bottom and you're filling it up, and at the moment the glass is small, so it overflows quickly. But with PPD version 4, the glass is bigger, so it can drain as quick as you're filling up. If that makes sense? I don't know. That probably makes no sense.
Oh, I get it. Yeah. I know what you're going for there.
So yeah, that's a brief explanation of the improvements to 64-bit. They've also improved the lighting engine. That's going to look a lot better. Also, the performance is a little bit better with higher res scenery. Like you can jam all the sliders all the way to the right, and you still get quite a good frame. Well, the streams I've seen of it, they've got reasonably good frame rates. So the sliders all the way to the right. So yeah, it looks really good. The load radius is nice as well. Have you ever seen like blurry textures in the distance?
Oh yeah.
Yep. Well, that problem is pretty much solved with PPD version 4, because it can load distant stuff in. So yeah, any thoughts?
Do you know what? I've always been against prepared. I've never sort of seen the need for it. I've never understood how people could justify, or how Lockheed could justify, that much money for it. But with version 4, it's gonna make me take a look at it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna keep a very close eye on it, see what sort of the initial reviews are, and if they're all positive, if a lot of people are making a lot of good noise about it, then I might be getting prepared for E4.
Yeah. I'm not gonna get it tomorrow on release day, because not many add-ons are currently compatible with it. I'm gonna wait until loads of the add-ons I use are compatible, and then I'll get it, and maybe not permanently switch over until they're all available, obviously. But I'll at least partly switch over when a sort of add-on that I use regularly, like an aircraft I use regularly, like the 777, 747, 737, or if 20 become available. Then I'll probably get it. I won't read it. There's like about, I don't know, 30 sort of statements from add-on developers here saying whether their products will be available for it, if they are now, or all the stuff. I'll leave the articles for everything down below in the description. and you can just go onto that. It's an FS Elite article, and it says all of the company's sort of views on it, so you can go check that out. But yeah, I'm definitely very excited for this. It will be very, very nice to not ever have an OOM again. I've had many into Heathrow especially. So yeah, have you ever had an OOM?
I don't think I have actually.
No?
The only kind of similar thing I've had was when I used to play with FS Passengers.
Oh yeah.
Occasionally my sim would crash.
Oh yeah.
Like just after I landed, because I'd be switching between like external views and internal views, and then the sim didn't like it and would crash before I had a chance to park up and end the flight.
Was this on the FSX Bob's version?
Yes.
Oh my god, don't touch me with that. Used to crash constantly for me. Mind you, I wasn't like a crappy computer. This was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But oh my god, that's it. Oh, when Steam Edition and then P3D came along, I was very happy.
Yeah, definitely.
Crashes weren't fun. Basically, what I used to do, I know this has gone off a bit of a tangent, but it's a podcast. That's what we do on podcasts. What I used to do is like basically every 15 minutes, I used to save the flight. So if it crashed, I could just reload back in. That's how paranoid I was. Yeah.
I never got that bad, but I definitely became more careful about switching my views around.
Yeah. That happened a lot with switching views around. That seemed to cause a lot of problems with it. But yeah. So yeah, P3D looks like P3D V4. Sorry, it looks like it's going to be very cool. Pricing, I presume P3D's usual weird licensing system that no one quite understands is going to be applicable. So yeah, basically, I think it's like $70 for academic, $200 something ridiculous like that for Pro, which are basically the same. But we won't get into that. I don't want to have a lawsuit. So, but especially not by Lockheed. They're a big company. So yeah, that's that. Any further comments?
No, I mean, other than it's looking promising.
Yeah,
no.
yeah. I'm definitely very excited for it. Okay, so I think there was a few other bits of. There was something else in P3D. I can't remember. I accidentally closed the tab, so stand by. Oh damn! Oh no, I know what it was. It was Aerosoft Singapore. I've closed the tab, but I remember it. Yeah, so basically Aerosoft are releasing a Singapore mega airport or whatever they call it. There's already one by Imagisim. Imagine, is it Imagine Sim or Imagine? I can't remember. I think it's Imagine Sim.
Never heard of them, so I wouldn't know.
They're sort of, I don't know. I describe them as a reasonable scenery developer. Their stuff's alright. It's nothing like any of the Aerosoft or Orbex or Flight Tampa stuff, but it's alright. But Aerosoft are making it, and it looks really nice from the screenshots. Can't find that one. I accidentally I was clicking around and I accidentally closed the tab down. And now I can't find the thing again. But yeah, there'll be a link to it in the description. I'll probably put some images up on the screen now so you can judge that for yourself. See how you think it looks, but I think it looks really nice. The reason I'm excited for this actually, and the main reason I put in the show, is because the Speedbird 15, I believe it is, which is one of BA's longest flights in a 777-300, Heathrow, Singapore to Sydney, and I'll be when I get that, obviously I'll be able to do that flight. Well, it's 2 flights, but sort of it's considered one, if you know what I mean. Like they only stop for fueling in Singapore.
Yeah.
I'll finally be able to do that with like all really nice scenery, because you've got Aerosoft Heathrow, Aerosoft Singapore, and then Fly Tampa Sydney. So that will be a very, very nice route to do.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm quite looking forward to that. So yes, that concludes the relatively short P3D sort of section of it. There's not really much to sort of say that much on V4 or the scenery really much. So I'm going to move on to what's probably going to be a slightly longer X-Plane segment. We've got a couple of stories about X-Plane. The main one, which actually just broke a few hours ago from recording this, which is UK2000 are going to develop for X-Plane. Now, UK2000 are a very, well, you probably know who they are, but they're a very reputable flight sim airport maker for the UK. Everyone loves them. Everyone says their airports are great. Do you use any UK2000 stuff?
I personally, I haven't got any paid scenery from them. I know you helped me set up a couple of demo sceneries a
the
while
demo
ago.
reports they do. Yeah.
But I haven't had a chance to like reinstall because it's quite tricky with the demos. Like you have to kind of go in and find like the manually like load the scenery file for it to be entered in the sim. But yeah, I mean the like just even the demo scenery was really detailed. I think I had the demo version of Luton, and I've travelled through Luton many times as a passenger, and yeah, I mean everything that I could see looked like a really kind of faithful and accurate representation of the airport.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you know, I'm really excited. This is like one of the kind of the big flight sim developers are now showing interest in X-Plane.
Yeah,
that's
great.
That was kind of the sentiment when X-Plane 11 was released was, they need some big name developers to maybe start taking an interest and seeing if they're willing to to make some scenery for X-Plane. And ta-da, here we go,
Yeah,
UK
it's really
2000.
working. Yeah, I know Allbex said they were going to at one point, and then they cancelled it for some reason, so that's annoying. But
That's true, yeah.
there's some other developers, some other really good developers that have said they're going to.
PMDG have made a plane for X-Plane. They did their DC6.
I was going to say sort of a bit of a opinionated thing. The DC6, I think that was an absolute wrong choice for an add-on because not many people really want to fly a DC6, to be honest. The sort of main markets are for flight sim I find are either like GA Cessnas and stuff or airliners, like modern airliners. Yeah. They would have been much better off porting something like the 737 NGX over to X-Plane because there's not a decent 737 NG in X-Plane at the moment, so they could have really, they've got so many sales of that. I think they made a big mistake there. I don't know why.
Well, it's possible that they were maybe just testing the waters with maybe an older aircraft which doesn't have too many complex systems, because I imagine that the architecture behind FSX and X-Plane is completely different. So maybe they used like they took an older, I guess, in quotation marks, simpler aircraft to model, maybe just to kind of get a feel for how to develop an aircraft for X-Plane, and maybe start getting some experience with it, and then they'll take all the lessons learned and start applying those to other more modern aircrafts, possibly.
Yeah, I don't know. I just see it's just a weird thing to do. I don't know, but maybe they'll tackle airliners in the future for X-Plane. That'd be great if they did because they're one of the finest add-on airliner developers out there. So it would be great to see their products. Maybe some of their existing products ported over to X-Plane would be very nice. Even though P3D V4's coming out, and a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, what's the point in X-Plane now?" Because its whole sort of gimmick was it was 64-bit. But no, I think X-Plane still has some advantages over V4.
No, I mean they've got one of like the big things that I keep seeing is like people calling for sloped runways in the FSX kind of based sims.
Oh yeah.
And like a lot of people are saying, it's as simple as it is, it really does kind of add a whole new kind of element to flying.
Yeah.
Having an uneven runway to try and land on.
That's a lot of terror to fly on.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But like then again, like arguably, the night lighting in X-Plane may still be better than.
Oh god.
May still be more realistic and more accurate than even X-Plane prepared version 4. So
yeah.
I mean, X-Plane does have its unique selling points, and I don't think I'm sure that prepared version 4 is going to be a big step forward, but I'm not 100% convinced yet if they've managed to kind of bring in some new innovative features like uneven runways, and I don't know if it's going to be technically possible to completely rework the lighting engine to improve the night lighting in prepared, and
Yeah, well,
kind of using that FSX base. But
they've improved it a bit with V4. It's gonna have dynamic lighting in V4. However, it looks nowhere near as good as X-Plane's lighting. But I know time will tell. I mean, we'll see what
and then
happens. Hopefully they can.
like,
But
there's also the whole how the different sims calculate the physics.
yeah,
The
Blade Emerald.
FSX base. Yeah, the FSX ones use lookup tables, and X-Plane uses Blade Element, which people
Yeah.
argue is more realistic. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's. I think X-Plane, I don't think prepared version 4 is going to blow X-Plane out of the water. I think they're going to be on par with each other. They both do, you know, they're both a similar product, but they do it in their own ways. And I think it's just whichever way people prefer. I mean, I think they're going to be, if you take the prepared academic license costs, they're going to be similarly priced as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
it's really just going to be down to personal preference. And
Yeah. And
um,
do you know what I think's funny actually? Which I was just thinking about this. There's always been a big split in the community that is was X-Plane and FSX slash P3D, basically the ESP engine, the various incarnations of that versus X-Plane, and the P3D people have always argued, oh well, we've got more add-ons, and the X-Plane people have always argued, well, we've got 64-bit. And I love that now both those things are being addressed. Like P3D getting 64-bit and X-Plane's getting loads of reputable, I can't say the word, add-on developers starting to develop for them.
I mean,
So
it can only be good. I mean,
yeah,
having
it could bring the
having
community together. I hope it brings the community together because the split is just so stupid. I find.
definitely. I mean, and now it's also good for the industry as a whole, because now you've got two similar products, but they work in completely different ways.
Yeah.
There's an element of competition now in the industry, and that's going to
Yeah.
encourage the X-Plane developers to up their game, and the prepared developers to up their game as well. And another developer that we're going to be talking about shortly as well.
Yeah, I know. X-Plane was something from sort of personal experience. X-Plane is so much nicer for developing scenery because I've been developing my Fuerteventura scenery currently, and it's very nice. There's this tool called World Editor, and it's really nice to work with. You can model your own stuff in, say, like SketchUp or something. Basically, I'll tell you how I do it. I use it completely free software. I model with SketchUp, texture with Paint.net, which is, I don't mean Microsoft Paint. I mean like Paint.net. It's a separate thing. It's nowhere near as good as like Photoshop, but it does the job. It works quite well. I know how to use it, so I've just stuck with it. And I sort of add the objects in with World Editor, and it's not easy to do, but it's definitely doable. It's definitely easily learnable. There's resources out there to learn.
Again, I think the word you're looking for is accessible.
Yeah,
It makes
exactly,
it accessible to people who are interested.
Yeah, and that means if you look on the X-Plane forum downloads page, there's hundreds and hundreds of really good freeware scenery for X-Plane, and that is a big advantage over P3D, because not everyone has got the money to, like, the disposable income to spend like $20 on a scenery for just for that flight that they might never do it again.
Yeah.
So, but if you've got freeware scenery, you can try out different airports. You can fly a big variety of different routes. So it adds a lot more sort of to the community. It's good.
That said, looking at the Prepared website, one of the features that they are listing on the Prepared website is a fully reworked software development kit. So
Ooh. Wait,
I
is that?
don't know. Sorry,
Hmm.
go ahead.
Is it? When they say software development kit, do they? I don't know if they mean like scenery, or I think that means sort of like APIs and stuff, though, doesn't it?
Possibly, yeah. I've got no idea. I've never looked to try and integrate any because I don't know how to develop software, so I've never
No, me
kind
neither.
of dealt with anything like that. But
Yeah.
um, because I know that Prepared also have, like, again, going back to their licensing, like they have like developer licenses or something aimed, like they have like subscription services aimed at developers as well. So
Yeah.
again, this is like funny money, but um, yeah, I mean the fully reworked software development kit. So I'm guessing they're also trying to make it easier for developers to get involved with Prepared and
Yeah.
make it easier for developers to work with the Prepared platform, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
Um, but I remember going to an Explain kind of seminar at Cosford,
Oh yeah.
and one of the key things that they were saying there was, we we really want to kind of open up our sim and work with developers and kind of give the developers as much support as we can give them, and help them kind of understand how our sim works and how to integrate their ambitions into our sim. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so I mean,
I just they basically the way it is in the flight sim community. I can't think of anyone I know that doesn't use an add-on of some form, whether it be freeware or payware for a sim, for
yeah,
any like serious flight sim. So the sim makers like well, Lockheed Mine and Dovetail, we'll get onto them later, or Explain Laminar Research. Um, they need to. They are reliant in a way. They are reliant on add-on developers, because if there's no add-on for something, you're not going to sell
yeah,
as many copies as if there were. So you really need to. Well, it's a smart idea to support developers like Lockheed sort of support developers, I believe. They didn't really say anything about it, but I know they gave Aerosoft an early copy of PPD V4 to help work on their stuff. So I think that shows that they are supporting developers, and I think we know Laminar are, because of their more comments and actions to support the freeware and payware development community.
yeah.
So yeah,
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's absolutely why FSX has survived as long as it has, is because it's been kept alive by add-ons and people kind of pushing the sim to, in ways that you didn't think were possible. Like, I'm sure that when FSX was first released, no one expected an aircraft like a PMDG 747
no,
to ever be released, because they just didn't think it was technically possible to do it.
it's add-on developers have really sort of pushed the boundaries with
Definitely.
flight sims. It's crazy. But yeah, on to other Explain news, because sort of stories for Explain. We've been rattling about this. Rotate are developing a MD-11 for Explain. I know PMDG already make one for. Well, they've made one for FSX. I don't think you can even buy it anymore, though. At least not from PMDG. So it'll be good to have a new incarnation of the MD-11. I'll probably be getting that. They say it's study level, so that's good. Rotate, they're the same people who made that MD-80 that wasn't good initially, but then they updated and it was good. So that's good. At least they're sort of showing that they can improve.
No, that's good. That's good that they can, like, yeah, they can take kind of constructive criticism and
Yeah,
implement it. So that's a
yeah.
positive step.
There's certain add-on developers that ignore any form of constructive criticism and just keep doing the same thing. I will not mention who they are. Black Lives. No, what?
Bless you, bless you.
No, they can't revoke my key, so it's okay. But anyway, the next news is IXCG. One of my favorite X-Plane developers are releasing a version 1.1 for they've released. Actually, no, this was posted yesterday, and it says it's going to be released in 48 hours. So tomorrow, they're releasing a version 1.1 for the IXCG Classic. Should be downloading that because I already have the aircraft. Which will be cool. I don't know if that improves it for X-Plane 11 because numerous. They've improved. They've got some fixes for X-Plane 11, so that will be good. You don't have that the ICG.
No, I have been tempted to pick it up.
I
I
think
haven't
you'd love
got
it.
any add-ons for X-Plane 11 yet at all.
Yeah.
But I'm like, for the first things I'll be looking at are, the likes of Ortho, XP, and I'll probably do the same thing that I did with FSX. I'll look to kind of like general tools and bits and pieces to kind of
Yeah.
any things which are more practical before I look into aircraft. Like practical tools and things to improve just the kind of the general sim before looking at specific aircraft and bits and pieces.
Yeah, but you definitely want to look at the ICG 737. I think you'd love it personally. It's very sort of like
It's
you
old
always
school,
say
isn't it?
you always say like you prefer steam gauges
Yeah.
in like G aircraft rather than the G1000s. It's like all its engine instruments, they're all gauges. Its altitude,
Yeah.
its altitude is as well.
Yeah, because I've watched your live streams a couple of times,
Oh, yeah.
and it takes me back to the days when I used to fly when EasyJet used to have Boeings. There used to be the is it a Boeing 737-300, is it, or 200?
Yeah, 300. Well, the IXCG is a 300. Yeah.
300, yeah. I'm pretty sure that like EasyJet when they first kind of started and when I used to fly
Yeah,
from my
I think it
hometown
was.
down to London, it used to be that 737-300s, and I always remember like peeking into the cockpit as I was getting on the plane and seeing like those kind of steam gauge engine instruments.
Yeah.
Back then, like I had no idea what any of it meant, but like seeing you flying it and seeing screenshots and videos of it, it's just like, oh, it was a 737-300, cool.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
very interesting aircraft.
yeah, no, it looks it.
I mean, obviously, I rated it as my like top add-on of last year. It was released last year, so um, and I stand by that. It's just so nice to fly. It's immersive. I mentioned this in the review, but yeah, it's very very immersive. It's sort of the sounds like when you flick a switch, it plays sort of the sound you'd expect, and it feels like you're like actually pressing it because
Yeah.
it feels so mechanical. It's really cool. I really do like that. So yeah, that's cool. They're updating that. Also, something else is this is sort of like yeah, right. This may be a bit of X-Plane news. It's P3D and X-Plane. Sorry, it's P3D and FSX, but it may be X-Plane as well. Milviz, not sure what they've made in the past, but they're making an ATR-72. Now, ATR-72, it's a small turboprop aircraft. Notable to me because Binter Canaries, she's an airline that flies around the Canary Islands and into one of my favourite airports that I'm currently developing scenery for, Fuerteventura. So I'll be flying that a lot in the Canaries. I've always wanted a decent one of them to fly. But there's rumours that it's going to be available for X-Plane as well. So there's nothing official yet, but there's rumours. So even though I'm in the X-Plane thing, it's only rumours. But hopefully,
That's intriguing.
yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
looking at Milviz's website, it looks like they predominantly do military aircraft,
Oh yeah.
and they've got quite a lot of military jets. Now, I'm not sure if I'm not sure kind of like the level of like kind of immersion, like if they're just basic aircraft or study. Although I'm sure I did see a news show a few weeks ago. I think it was Fugelsim actually, where he was talking about because they do an F4 Phantom military jets. I'm sure he kind of covered a news press release or something where they kind of released an update which made it more study level. They had like a basic version out there, and then they've got an add-on to that aircraft, which is it's like an add-on to an add-on, which makes it more in depth and more detailed and all the rest of it. So
Yeah.
um, it yeah, I mean, I'm not as I said, I'm not sure. You know, it's interesting that they do military aircraft, and here they're going to be doing an ATR. So
Yeah, that'd be
um,
cool.
yeah, and again, like I'm not sure what's kind of the complexity level of the aircraft will be like.
Yeah, all that's it's very early at the moment. All that's available is some like sort of non-textured photos of the main instrument panel.
Oh, okay.
Um, so yeah, and it just says that it's going to be available for FSX and P3D. Mostly basically. Um, so yeah, I hopefully it will be available for Explain if the rumors are true. Maybe they're not, but if not, it's fine in FSX and P3D. But yes, so that wasn't really Explain news technically, but it was a little bit, you know. Okay, right. That's not weird. No. A final Explain story before we move on to the Dovetail stuff. Is Flight Factor, which made the 757 and 767, are now making an A320 there. But right, Flight Factor stuff has been seen as a bit in the past. That's the word I'd use. It's not a word, but that's the noise I'd use to describe it. It works sometimes. It's okay. It's reasonable. However, they're developing this A320 with a load of other developers, and it's going to be completely different. Apparently, it's going to be a massive improvement on all other Flight Factor aircraft. And from the videos I've seen, from what I've read about it, from what I've heard about it, it looks FS Labs quality. That's what I'd say.
Well, I mean, that's the thing though. Is like you've got the Aerosoft one, which is probably like the noob-friendly A320 to have. You got the FS Labs one, which is the study level one to have. They've got competition.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to pull out something special if they're gonna win people away from those two aircrafts.
Yeah, but big yeah. This is an Explain, so.
Oh, explain. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
that's
That's right.
perfect
I
then.
mentioned. Yeah. This is Explain. So.
Okay. That changes everything.
Yeah.
No, that'll be good. That'll be good to have like a reputable company. Again, that's another reputable developer making a high quality aircraft for
Yeah.
X-Plane. So
It does
that can
look good.
only be good things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually. I'm not. I don't know. I'm sort of working on a full sim at the moment. I'm making parts for it, but I've got like nowhere to build said sim at the moment. But I'm sort of making parts in anticipation for in like a few years when I will have like my own flat and like a place to put a full sim. So
Yeah.
I sort of have parts already made, and it's of an A320. And I was originally thinking I was gonna have to power it with the with like P3D with the FS Labs and everything, which is kind of annoying stuff. I'll explain lends itself better to it. But with this, I might actually be able to use Explain for the full sim, which would be really cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So that should be fun. I don't know. It's just sort of like a dream that I hope to make a reality, having my own full sim. So yeah, hopefully that'll happen one day. So yeah, that concludes the Explain section. Now we're on to Dovetail stuff. Dovetail, if you don't know, they released their flight sim game, whatever.
Flight Sim World.
Yeah, Flight Sim World for well, and he said for like P3D. My words, they've disappeared. No, they released their Flight Sim World, which is their adapted version of FSX. Basically, they've redone the engine and redone a load of stuff. I actually haven't got it. Doofer has got it. He's done a video where he sort of shows it but doesn't give opinions on it on his channel. I'll link that below as well, so you can go check that out. But as I don't have it, I'll Doofer's mainly going to be sort of telling you about it. So if you want to talk now about it, and I'll give my opinions.
Do I have to? Okay, well, no, I did say that I was going to give my opinions after a couple of weeks. I wanted to give Dovetail the benefit of the doubt. I really did. but Flight Sim World has been disappointing and underwhelming. At face value, I would say that Flight Sim World is FSX with a couple of add-ons. And what the reason I think that there was a lot of like negative kind of sentiment towards Dovetail and towards Flight Sim World before it was released. And like I said, I didn't want to like go with it. I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. But after I've put in about 14 hours into the sim. I've played all of the missions that come in with the like the sim is in early access, so it's a product which is still in development. I feel it's important to say that. But again, like after its initial release, there was a lot of negative reviews of it, and I think the biggest kind of like the biggest issue I guess that people have with it is that there's not really anything tangible to show that there's been innovation in the sim. I mean, Dovetail have been saying that we want to create like the next sim platform that's going to survive 10 years or 5, 10 years. But there's not really anything innovative from FSX. There's not really anything that's drastically changed. So like they say that they've updated it to be 64-bit now, which is great. But now you've got Prepared, who are releasing 64-bit. X-Plane have released 64-bit, so that's kind of an expected feature now. They say that they've changed the lighting engine, and you can see it in the sim. You can see that like the entire kind of tone of the lighting and the weather has changed.
Yeah,
But
I'm just
yeah,
gonna
there's
get it up now.
like I say, there's nothing like which like just is drastically different. Like the overriding kind of feeling playing it is that it's FSX with a couple of add-ons.
Yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some aspects of the sim that I like, but there's other aspects of it which are troubling and concerning, and um, yeah, and it's kind of it's giving me feelings of doubts both about FSX, oh sorry, not FSX, FSW, Flight Sim World as a flight sim and as a product, and Dovetail Games as a company. And like I'll let you step in, but there's a couple. Yeah, I'll expand on those points
sure.
a bit more as we go on.
Yeah, well, obviously I can't really say too much about it because I've not actually played it. But from what I've seen of it, from photos, videos, reviews, well, your video, it does not look good. You were saying they wanted to sort of make the like next big sim, so to speak. That definitely won't happen. It doesn't look like they've even aimed for that, to be honest. The best I can see this becoming is I mean it's only £20, so it's only it's not much compared to like X-Plane and P3D. So the best I can see for it is people who've never done flight sim before, sort of getting it, trying it out, and then maybe moving on to X-Plane or P3D. That sort of like a stepping stone thing, sort of like what they planned for flight school, but then they canned flight school and released this, which to be honest doesn't look that much of an improvement on flight school.
No, I mean, yeah, that's the thing is like you expect to see evolution, with the product. Like I said, I'm not familiar with Prepared, but I'm sure that Prepared when they went from version 2 to version 3, there was noticeable
Oh
changes,
yeah, definitely.
and very like distinct, clear changes.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's been the same again. Like I've not been in flight simming for I've not been deeply involved with flight simming for many years, or only a couple of years really. But from X-Plane 9 to X-Plane 10 to X-Plane, certainly I know from 10 to 11 was a kind of a big step forward. But yeah, with Flight Sim World, I just don't get that same sense. I mean, like I said, there are aspects of the sim that I like. I'm kind of more like I like flying GA aircraft, and some of the GA aircraft that they've done are really nice, and having the default scenery in Flight Sim World again is really nice.
Yeah, Robux.
However, as you just said, Dovetail didn't develop that.
No.
That's basically Orbx FTX Global that Dovetail have obviously worked out a deal with Orbx, and they've got Orbx Global FTX Global installed as default as Flight Sim World.
Yeah, I think it's actually like a watered down version of FTX Global. Maybe I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. I know that it's FTX, Orbx FTX Global kind of technology that's there. I don't know if it's the same as Orbx's kind of one of their kind of main products, or if it's simplified version or an older version or what. But and then of course, like I mean, I guess it's you game studios and game development teams don't. I'm guessing like they, a lot of them would do that. They would outsource particular pieces of work to third-party companies. So, I mean, yeah, like I don't have an issue with them going to Orbx and like outsourcing global scenery texturing to them or anything like that. But you look at FSX, like what like I'm not sure if they want to take over, like this is one of the things, like I don't understand what's, like it's not clear to me what Dovetail are trying to do. Like, what is the purpose of Flight Sim World? Like they say that they want it to be the next kind of main player in Flight Sim, but people, like everyone has invested a lot of time. Anyone who's been a flight simmer for a while has probably invested a lot of time into FSX and a lot of money and add-ons into FSX, and there's nothing in Flight Sim World currently that would encourage people to drop FSX and move over to Flight Sim World as it stands today.
No, not really. I can't think of anything.
And actually, this might be a good opportunity for you to put up those screenshots that I sent you earlier.
Yep.
Let me try and find the windows here. Like I took these screenshots a couple of hours before we started recording, maybe 2 or 3 hours before we started recording. And if I could just bring them up here. So basically this website that I got these screenshots on is www.steamcharts.com, and it displays the number of players who are currently playing games which are available on Steam. Now, I'm not sure how, I can't comment on the accuracy of these numbers, so these numbers might be complete BS. I have no idea, but I was looking at Microsoft Flight Simulator X Steam Edition and Flight Sim World. Those are the two sort of major flight sims on Steam. I know that X-Plane 11 is on Steam as well, but if we're dealing with like the FSX Foundation type of game, we're looking at these two really. And you can see that Flight Simulator X has got approximately between maybe 3,000 and 4,000 people playing per day, which is not bad. It's not bad. And then you look at Flight Sim World, and that's got between maybe 100 and 200 people playing per day. And if you look at the all-time peak as well, which would have been on release day for Flight Sim World, that was only 600, which is many times less than the number of people playing FSX daily.
Yeah.
And so it's clear. I mean, like I said, I don't know about the accuracy of these figures, but it's clear that people are not taking well to Flight Sim World. There's nothing there to say drop FSX, come and play Flight Sim World.
you lose a lot of stuff, because I know like I don't fly default airliners, but I know there are people who do like to fly them out there. I mean, I used to fly them like, I don't know, 5 years ago. I used to fly the default 737 everywhere, and that's what actually got me into flight sim. And I think that's why a lot of people actually got into flight sim. Airliners basically, because people, particularly young people, go on holiday and they sort of like want to simulate the flight that they went on holiday with.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I know that's what I did when I was quite young. So I feel they've completely sort of removed that ability. And I know
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of people tend to sort of moan about younger people in the flight sim community, but at the end of the day, one day we're all gonna either lose, well, have God forbid, die, or lose sort of wants to do it anymore. And there's gonna, if we want the community to continue, we need younger people to start flight simming.
no, definitely. And I mean, there are, like I said, there are a couple of things that Flight Sim World does well. But I said earlier, like I had doubts about the future of Flight Sim World as a product, and also I was careful to say that I've got doubts about Dovetail Games as a company. Now would be a good time to throw up the second screenshot that I sent you.
Yep.
So Dovetail Games also developed the Train Simulator series of games, and they've been a bit more active with that. Dovetail Games, which originally Railworks Limited, I believe the company name was. So they originally developed a simulator called Railworks, which was a train simulator game. They then renamed that to just basically Train Simulator rather than Railworks, and they renamed the company name to Dovetail Games. And again, on these screenshots, you can see that Train Simulator has over 1,000 people playing per day. And they also released something similar to FSW. They have Train Sim World, which at the time of taking the screenshot was less than 100.
Wow.
And Train Sim World was released towards the start of the year, I believe, as well. And that had an equally critical reception from people who played it initially and bought it initially. They said that there were, many performance issues, and they had a lot of kind of gripes about the game. So this is where my concern about Dovetail Games as a company comes in. They've released 2 new products this year, and neither of them have been received particularly well. And I know a little bit about Dovetail Games as a company. I know that they are funded by private investors. I don't think it's been publicized who these private investors are or how much they invest in the company. I don't think the company's financials are public anywhere. But given how poorly these 2 new games have been received, and how few people are playing these games currently. I mean, if you have a look at Flight Sim World, that's, at the time of taking the screenshot, that's less than 200 people and less than 100 playing people. So that's probably less than 400 or 500 people playing both their new games per day, compared to the 5,000 or 6,000 that are going to be combined playing Flights or FSX and the old Train Simulator. Like these 2 new games that have been developed obviously aren't performing as well. Like, what's that going to mean for the future of Dovetail Games?
Yeah, I think it might be the same problem, because I know it's flights and podcasts and we're going on to trains, but the thing with Train Sim World is there's a lack of diverse content. The title of it, I don't know if they're releasing different versions or anything, but the title of it is like CSX Heavy Haul, and
Yep.
I think from what I've seen, it's just large freight trains in North America. What about the people who want to sort of drive a bullet train through Japan? Want to drive like a small diesel locomotive through like, I don't know, north of the UK? There's all these different sort of niches, particularly with trains. I think with trains, people sort of like to recreate their own experiences.
Hmm. No, it's
And
very very similar to flight simming. Like, if you've been on a
yeah,
particular style of train, or you've traveled through a particular location in the world, you want to do that yourself and experience that yourself. And that's
yeah,
like us with flight simmers. Like, we fly in areas that we're familiar with, or we fly to foreign airports that we've gone on holiday to and stuff.
yeah.
So
I just
and
feel that their problem is the problem is the same, that lack of diverse content. With Flight Sim World, it's only GA aircraft. With Train Sim World, it's only freight trains. So
well, I'll tell you what I was gonna do. If we have a look at like the flight sim world, right? So according to the Steam charts, like, they had an all-time peak of 634 players playing the game at the same time on release day. Now, I don't know. Would you say, like, I want to know this answer. Would you say that 600, like, if you take 634 there, would that be? Do you think that's an accurate representation of how many sales of the game they've made, or not?
mm,
I wouldn't think so.
no, because it's so. What do you mean, like, as in? So
No,
that's how many
no.
people played it on the
That's
first day.
Well, that was when it was
Yeah, sorry.
like all-time peak. So that's how many people were playing it at the same time at any given time.
Ah, okay.
And I believe that was on release day. Was the first after, like, the first 24 hours after it was released was when it was being played the most.
Yeah, I see.
No, actually, that's just I'm thinking of a stupid thing there. I mean, because what I would like to do is, if I can find the numbers, I'd like to try and find out how many copies of Flight Sim World were sold or have been sold. Because what I was going to do was find out how many copies have been sold, and then just multiply that by the price of the game, and then you can figure out how much Dovetail Games have earned through Flight Sim World sales. And I'd be interested to know, because it'd be interesting to see how much money they've earned through sales of Flight Sim World, and how long that's gonna, and like maybe have an idea of how long that's gonna fund development of the game further.
Yeah, because
Because that's the whole point of early access, is to gain funding to develop the game. And if they haven't gained much money through making the game available through early access, they're not going to have enough money to pay for development team members, pay their salaries, and or pay third party companies to develop content, or pay for subject matter experts to come in and give advice to the developers.
yeah,
So again, like,
it's
this is lending into the whole future of the game, and the financial security of the company as a whole.
yeah. I mean, it really doesn't seem to be that popular.
Well, I mean,
It's
just look
looking
at
at
the
it, yeah,
playing figures there. Like,
yeah,
everyone's sticking with FSX, and, like, to be fair, Dovetail do have the rights to FSX, but you know they've got competition now. Like, FSX, is now, yeah, like, P3D V4 is coming out.
yep,
Um, X-Plane 11 is coming out and starting to get support from other developers now as well. So they can't fall back on FSX for too much longer, because as Laminar Research and Lockheed Martin continually upgrades their respective simulators, FSX is going to fall behind. And if Dovetail Games cannot keep up with them
yeah,
and, like, show some significant improvements and developments, and some innovative steps forward with Flight Sim World, um, I fear that they're going to lose out.
yeah. Well, one thing I want to address, which I know sort of, I think Dovetail would say in a defence, and people who like it would say in a defence, is that it's early access at the moment. That is true. Early access normally means there may be some bugs, though. It doesn't mean there's
Yeah.
going to be substantial amounts of content missing, like landing lights not illuminating the ground. That's a pretty heavy bug. That's something that's quite essential, isn't it? It's not like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I was, we were talking before we started recording. Like, there's more that I could go on to about that if you would like me to go into it.
Yeah, well, one thing I want to also say about early access, you're only ever guaranteed when you pay that £20 for the product, you're only ever guaranteed the version that is currently out. There's no, they have no legal contract to have to update it. That they could just go bankrupt tomorrow. Um, so yeah, bankrupt in between recording this and uploading it now. That'd be annoying. No, so yeah, there's no guarantee that those bugs will ever get fixed. I mean, they probably will. The company's probably going to stay afloat and they're probably going to fix them, but there's no guarantee, and you're sort of, it's almost like you're betting on them that they're going to fix these things. So yeah, you should definitely be careful with early access. Don't just throw money at something and expect it to get better, because sometimes it might not.
Yeah, definitely. Would you indulge me and let me talk about some of the features in the game that I was? I mean,
Feel free.
I mean, may I? May I?
Yeah.
Like I said, there are things that Flight Sim World does well. Like the default scenery, for someone who's into GA flying, is good. I've noticed there's a lot more kind of like, trees, and the kind of autogen scenery is a bit more diverse. Having sharper textures on the ground is nicer. Having the new kind of lighting rendering engine is good as well. Some people complain that it looks too washed out, or it's too bright, or the contrast is too high. I personally, I naturally tends towards things which are more which have like, rich colors and contrasts. So it doesn't bother me all that much, having like the sim bright and colorful. And like some of the I guess you would call them default aircraft are really good. Like flying the Piper Super Cab in Flight Sim World is really good. It rattles, it shakes, it squeaks, it bumps. Like it, like they one of the things they highlight in their kind of announcement or dev diary videos is that the needles wobble on the gauges, and for an old aircraft like a Piper Cub, you expect all that sort of stuff, and that really does lend to the immersion flying that plane.
Yeah.
And I've actually really enjoyed flying the Piper Cub. I've never enjoyed flying a Piper Cub ever before, but Flight Sim World have done, or Dovetail Games have done a good job with it. They obviously started developing it with in detail or in depth with Flight School. They've kind of made some tweaks and changes to it, and they've carried those forward into Flight Sim World, and it's a nice aircraft.
Yeah.
One of the other sort of, I guess you would call, innovative things is I think it's the Piper Seneca that's in the game has a G500 unit, not a G1000, a G500 unit.
Yeah, it's the sort of portrait like display ones, the ones.
Yeah. And again, that's something new. We had the G1000s in FSX, and there's a couple of the two Diamond aircraft in Flight Sim World have G1000s, which have bugs, funnily enough. But yeah, the G500 is a new type of display, and it's not a case of, oh, you can just copy paste the code from a G1000 to get it working with a G500. Like, it is from what I could tell, it looks like an entirely new system being modeled in Flight Sim World, and that's good. So I mean, that's another thing that I like with Flight Sim World. And let me just refer back to a couple of notes here. And yeah, a couple of other things that I noticed which were new compared to FSX. As stupid as it sounds, the amount of force that's applied when you apply the brakes is less than FSX, which I think is more realistic, because you hit the brakes in FSX and the aircraft practically does a stoppie on its front wheel, like it jams to a hole. Whereas in Flight Sim World, it's a lot more gentle. it gives you a much kind of smoother deceleration, which I like. And something else that I only noticed a few days ago was that Flight Sim World models fuses working and not working.
What? What? Like, as in circuit breakers?
Yep, as in circuit breakers, those are models.
Wow. So, like, in
They
the
pop in
you
and
know
out.
the aircraft of the G500. I'm looking at
Yep.
that right now. There's like a massive like grid of them on the right.
Yep. You
What?
can
And they
click all of
all.
those, they'll pop in and
Wow.
pop out.
Okay, I'll say that's
So
impressive. Yeah,
so
that
I
is
mean
cool.
that's so yeah, I mean so like I've no doubt that they've done a lot of work behind the scenes, but I still think that Flight Sim World was rushed, and it was
Yeah.
is that they could have. There's a lot that they could have done before releasing it. Like those, like everything I've just mentioned, there are things that I like about it. I've mentioned a few things before that I don't like about it. Um, and like I say, like it feels like it was rushed because you know some of the aircraft, if you look at like some toggle switches on the aircraft, they have really blurry text. You can't read what's on the switches. And for someone who's into like GA flying, and if they're saying, like if I look at some more notes, let me just see here. Let me just try and find it. Try and get a quote out of one of the.
Isn't there like an aircraft that doesn't have any labels like at all? I'm sure you
Yeah.
mentioned that.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, one of the developers commented in one of their kind of pre-release videos, the comment, and I quote, "We've captured even minute details in the aircraft, such as gauges wobbling under motion, the perspex shimmers, the systems in the airplanes are all faithfully represented." That's all good and well, but don't tell me that you've captured minute details in the aircraft and then release a product where switches have blurry text on them. That's just sloppy, that's lazy, that's ridiculous, and it shows that there's been no quality assurance or QA testing that's taken place before it's been released. Yes, it's an early access product, but there's more quotes that I'm gonna highlight. And yeah, another aircraft. They've got a relatively unknown aircraft. I've never heard of it before, but there's an aircraft called the Vans RV7A. It's like an experimental aerobatic aircraft. And again, like the cockpit in that looks nice. It's all nice and 3D. It's kind of the textures, or yeah, the textures inside are nice and sharp. But there's at least 10 switches and at least 6 lights which don't have any labels on any of the switches or any of the lights. So you don't know what the lights are, you don't know what the switches are or what they do. And again, like that is just an incredibly obvious and stupid mistake to make. Like why would don't you can't claim in a promotional video that you're capturing minute details of an aircraft and make the stupid mistake of releasing an aircraft without switches being labeled. That's such an obvious and stupid oversight to make, and it's lazy and it's ridiculous. And the other thing, like, and sorry, this is the last kind of point that I want to make. In one of the videos, they're saying, they're saying, we're hoping to gain an understanding of what simmers think and of the work and what think of the. Sorry, let me start again. We're hoping to gain an understanding of what simmers think of the work that's gone into it so far. And then another developer says, I think we need to understand and appreciate the weight of opinion and experience and the passion within the community in order to inform our decision making. So they've acknowledged that they are paying attention to the community. They've acknowledged that what the community says is very important to them with those statements. And I was watching one of their live streams on Twitch pre-release. It was a week before release, and the developers were doing a live stream, and they could read the chat and they could read the comments, and they had another representative from Dovetail moderating the chat as well. And there was a lot of criticism being directed towards them. So they must have known how much expectation there was and how much kind of pressure there was from the community to deliver a good product. Yeah. But they, what they have delivered they've left like stupid mistakes, like switches not being labeled and switches with blurry text on, and things like that. Like I say, like if you're gonna harp on about having details in aircraft and all that, and you say that you're listening to the community and taking it, like, don't they must have known how much pressure they were under to deliver a good product, and like delivered like a product with silly little mistakes here and there. There's been like for me, like I don't know, I don't have any software development experience, but I know that game studios have quality assurance testing to make sure that issues like that are picked up before the product is released. Even if it's in early access, they should have known how much pressure they had to make a good impression on people to show the potential of the sim. And having issues like that is lazy, it's stupid, and it's really not helped their cause. If anything, it's really damaged any possibility of kind of hope for the future that
Yeah.
develop like
They,
the simmers had for any people like me who were going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Seeing mistakes like that is just eroding our kind of trust and faith that the company is going to deliver further down the line. So
yeah. I
um,
mean, I don't know. I didn't hear. I don't remember. I didn't hear a single thing out of them while they were developing this. Did you hear
and
anything about it?
no, I mean, and that's another thing is
Yeah.
like they keep saying, oh, we've got a roadmap of new features that we're going to release. Well, maybe build some trust with the community. Tell us what you're working on, and
Yeah.
then like again, we might have a bit more faith and a bit more hope for the future of this sim. But don't like what you're going to tell us. Oh, we're gonna bring in a commercial jet. Well, we bloody hope so that you do,
Yeah.
because you've got Prepared, which is releasing. Even FSX released with a diversity of aircraft. You had propeller, you had piston engine aircraft, you had twin engine aircraft, you had turboprop aircraft, you had helicopters, gliders, jets, a military aircraft. Uh, was it military aircraft? Yeah, there was the F-18
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
FSX.
Acceleration.
I mean, FSX as well. You had pretty much an aviation encyclopedia. There was an entire learning center. So if you didn't know what an attitude indicator was, there was like a primitive Wikipedia within FSX, so you could read the
Yeah.
page all about an attitude indicator and learn about it. So if they are developing something aimed at beginners, like all of that stuff is already there in the core code. Like just reuse it. Like if you want to, put more content into the game,
Yeah.
it's just underwhelming. It's just really underwhelming. It's really disappointing.
My like overall message to Dovetail, if they're watching, which they're probably not. It's like, I kind of hope they're not, to be honest. But yeah, my message to them is involve the community. Get on Facebook Facebook pages, forums, whatever. See what everyone wants. If you want, you go, okay, we should make a commercial airliner for this. Don't just go, I'll do this airliner. Don't do that. Look, see what everyone wants. I mean, it'll probably be a 737 to be honest, but check, see what everyone wants from it. What sort of parts they want the most. What you should focus your effort on. So don't just go, yay, let's make some of the gauges wobble and then miss out like the legs page of the FMC.
Yeah.
You see what everyone specifically wants from it and ask. Don't like be ashamed to ask. I don't know. I get sort of, I don't know, almost like snobbiness with add-on developers. Like they're like, oh, we know best. We're not gonna ask what people want because we obviously know what's best. And I feel some of them think that. I'm not saying Dovetail do, but I feel that some add-on developers do think that. Whereas you should just listen and do what the buyers want, because at the end of the day, your sort of goal as a business is to make money, and you're gonna make more money if you sell more, and you're gonna sell more if you give people what they want, and then
Yeah.
everybody's happy. Yeah.
But I mean, like this comes back to my point. Like, if they've had a significantly poor kind of opening, product launch, are they going to have the finances to, keep the team that they have? And they're going to have the finances to bring in experts? And and like there's another thing that I just remembered just now as well. If you look at the Dovetail Games website, look through the news articles on their website, it says here, on the 26th of July 2016, Dovetail Games joins forces with aviation giant Boeing. Officially licensed content coming soon to Microsoft Flight Simulator X Steam Edition. Have you seen any Boeing DLC show up for FSX Steam Edition in the past year or so?
No, I've not. I've not really looked at that, but what for Steam?
Let me send you the link for this. You can see the news article is definitely there. So they've got some sort of deal or agreement with Boeing that was made public on the 26th of July 2016. So that's 10 months ago, give or take. And I haven't seen I haven't seen anything. And you'd think that there would be something boring related in Flight Sim World.
Yeah, it's almost like they're sort of trying to play their cards close to their chest. But I mean, it's not like you're sort of designing a brand new aircraft or anything for Flight Sim. You're making a replica of a real life aircraft. There's not really any ideas that can be stolen from posting screenshots and sort of telling people what I can do. Why wouldn't you say?
I don't know. It just strikes me that there's a lot of unknowns with the future of Flight Sim World.
I think a lot of stuff they seem to do, they go, oh, that hasn't gone as intended, and they just sort of keep quiet about it. It's very cloak and dagger. That's the phrase I choose.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just that they had an opportunity to really like turn around and wow people.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't whether they don't have the resources to do it. I don't know if they were pushed by higher powers to release Flight Sim World earlier than they wanted to, but like it just overall I can't. It just doesn't look good. I mean, like you just left kind of thinking this isn't working out well. That like what are they going to do from here? And I said to this to you before they start. Like the only way they could really win back a lot of kind of fans and a lot of interest and respect from the Flight Sim community is if they've kind of held back a lot of significant updates, and then they just go, right, this month we've got 3 commercial jets, all like study level, ready to go. Also, we've got simplified versions for those of you who don't want to read through pages of documentation. And then a month after that, guess what? We've got 3 helicopters that we're going to release. A month after that, 3 turboprops.
Yeah.
If they can release significant, massive, big, kind of progressive updates very quickly, then I'm sure they'll win back a lot of interest. But you just kind of like, you just don't know. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they should have sort of. I feel like they sort of tried too hard to sort of distance themselves from it being FSX. Because if they'd have kept like the FSX aircraft in, and just added a few of their own aircraft, improved the UI a bit, improved the engine, and released it as like, I don't know, like it sort of kept like almost like the FSX branding, like maybe because FSX is like Flight Sim 10. So
yeah,
I don't know. They could have.
Well, I think
exiled.
There's also like they've got responsibility to set expectations as well.
Yeah.
So if they turned around and said, "Look, we've done a lot of work behind the scenes. we're going to release Flight Sim World. We've done a lot of work behind the scenes with like the code and the side of the game that you the public do not see. When we release Flight Sim World, it's gonna look, but it's not gonna look like we've made any progress. But trust us, we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes to make it 64-bit, to improve how the game performs with modern computing hardware. Um, regardless of whether you see that in changes in frame rates or not.
Yeah, I don't know if we've mentioned that yet, but from what I've seen, the performance isn't exactly brilliant. Let's say.
In my experience, it's on at the moment. It's on par with FSX. Granted, they do have more detailed default scenery, but like again, it just doesn't like even the performance of the game doesn't seem like it's improved all that much. Like I get between maybe 30 and 40 frames per second on FSX with most of my settings at maximum. And I've got all of my settings on high for Flight Sim World, and I'm getting the same kind of level of performance. So I mean, I don't know, but like if they came out and said, like, you know what, it doesn't look like much right now, but we're doing a lot with the game that you got. We're working really hard with the side of the game that the public don't see, and I think like a lot of people would forgive them and say, okay, well, okay, we'll check in with you in a year's time and see what developments you've made then. But like they're releasing it now and they're saying, oh, it's going to be, it's going to be the next 10-year flight sim to have, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Those are big claims to make. It's a very.
They were too ambitious, I think. I think they thought, oh yeah, we monopolised train sim. Train sim was easy, but guess what? I mean, aircraft tend to be a bit more complicated than trains, I suppose.
I mean, not necessarily, but.
Well, think about it this way though. With like flying, you can move everywhere in all three dimensions. With trains, you're going along, sort of literally on rails.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any that really. Well, I'm sure trains like are equally complex, in the way that they like pick up electricity from the wires overhead. Like, I don't know if that's accurately modeled. I have no idea how all of that stuff works, but they've got to take that into account. They've got to, but yeah, I mean they've got like, I guess you would say a narrow corridor of, a train line, a narrow corridor of the world to model.
Yeah.
And you drive through that,
Yeah.
But
so
flights.
It's. Yeah.
Flight simming, you spend a lot of time, tens of thousands of feet away from the ground, so you don't necessarily have to model the ground in significant detail. But it's still, when you get to an airport, it needs to feel immersive, and the interior, the cockpit of a plane needs to feel immersive.
Yeah, what I saw that this is sort of like a little gripe. I don't know if they'll improve this, but why didn't they improve the runway textures? That'd have been such an easy thing to do. Like make new runway textures. It'd been so easy to do, but they didn't. And because the FSX runway textures, I mean, they're not good. I don't think. Anyway,
I can't remember. I mean, I've been using, my voice just broke then. Yeah, I mean, I've been using, was it Rex Essentials, and that's been handling my runway texture, so I can't really remember what the defaults look like anymore. But I mean, there's still like issues that I noticed. Like one of the things that I noticed before I started recording my video, when I was just setting up the sim and trying to figure out the best settings for graphics and that, so it'd be a smooth video. Was I noticed that like the old trouble with runway lights kind of appearing to float above the runway.
Did they?
That was still present in FSW.
Oh yeah, I think I know what you mean. Yeah, default airports, yeah.
So it's just like, I mean, and you touched on it earlier as well. Like, lights don't illuminate, the body of the aircraft or the surrounding environment in any way at the moment. Again, that's such like a fundamental part of flying. Like, again, like how could you miss that before releasing the product? When I go back to, if you're really taking what the community say seriously, you must have known how critical the community was of Flight Sim World before it was even released. You must have known how imperative it was
Yeah.
to, make a good first impression with your product.
Yeah.
And things like landing lights not working, or not light illuminating the world properly or the aircraft properly, and like I go back to it again, like blurry text on switches, text missing from cockpits. It's just like you just want to bash your head off a desk and just think, no, just like tell
Yeah.
me I'm dreaming. Like tell like, is it the 1st of April? Tell me it's the 1st of April they released this on. Tell me they're releasing the actual a proper product tomorrow, but they
Yeah,
haven't.
I mean, you some the landing lights. People might go, "Oh, that's sort of a minor bug," but I say, the landing lights on real aircraft aren't put there for aesthetic reasons. They're
No.
needed for flying at night. You need them because when you're coming in, when you're coming to land, you get to like 10 feet and flare. You need to sort of use the lights to sort of judge your distance to touch down. You can't,
Yeah.
otherwise you just
It helps if you can see the center line of the
yeah.
runway.
Yeah, and yeah.
Um,
Oh, also, what was I? I was gonna. Oh no, I've lost my train of thought. That's so annoying. Okay, you go ahead.
well, I mean, yeah, like again, like you can't be you can't be making claims that this is going to be the simulator to have for the next 10 years
No.
and miss out something fundamental like aircraft lights. Not like even if they just projected like an opaque cone of lights, that would still like indicate that they're actually working. They're actually doing something, but it's just
Do
you
you
just
want to know the biggest bug I spotted with X-Plane when it released on its like first early access or first like beta release? It
what
was
was it?
that there was no moon or stars. That was like the main problem, and it had like this weird sort of halo thing in the sky. That was the main problem with it, if I remember correctly. And it's all fixed now. But yeah, so these are substantial. They're quite substantial bugs. They'll probably fix them, but as I say, there's a chance they
Yeah,
might not. And if you've already bought it, then well,
I
rip.
mean, but I know I keep hammering the point, and people are going to be fed up listening to me. But you needed to make a good first impression, and letting
Yeah,
stupid little mistakes like that through is not going to make a good first impression. So,
yeah, yeah,
and yeah, like as we showed earlier, you could see that in the player numbers. Like basically,
oh yeah,
barely anyone is playing Flight Sim World currently. Everyone's sticking with FSX.
yep.
So
Right. But yes, I think we need to bring this podcast to an end now. We've been
yeah, it's
recording
been
for
going
an
on for a
hour and
while.
37 minutes.
Yikes.
So yeah, thank you all for watching. We'll hope to do another one soon. Shorter length probably.
Yeah.
Later in the year when all these things have released. Um, maybe it'll be sort of like a follow-up one where we review everything that we've been anticipating in this one.
Yeah, hopefully there's progress and good things to talk about, but I
Yeah.
guess time will tell.
Well, saying that, most things we have spoken about today are quite good, like the 787 P3D,
Yeah,
Flight for X-Ray 320,
yeah,
UK
definitely.
2000. So yeah, it's only sort of flights and movement about. Hopefully they'll improve. We Dovetail. I don't know if I speak for you, but I have nothing against you if you should listen to the community. And I think maybe if you do take things on board, you can improve it, and maybe probably not get all the reputation back, but maybe get some of the reputation back. From it, I'm hopeful. I hope you do. It's always the more developers there are, the more good stuff we get for Flight Sim. So, yeah.
I mean, Yeah, I've no parting words, but they've got to make some significant progress with Flight Sim World if they're gonna be taken seriously as a developer within the flight sim
Yeah.
kind of industry, I guess.
Yep. So yes, I'll end it here. So yes, thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed. As always, Doofer's channel and his video to Flight Sim World will be in the description below, along with the links to various articles we've mentioned today. But yeah, I'll see you all for normal videos hopefully soon. And have you got anything to sort of say? Any like plans you want to say?
Um, yeah, I
For
mean, I'm
people
going
to
to
look
be
out for.
doing a follow up video
Oh,
to the one because there was a couple of sort of aspects of Flight Sim World that I missed in my initial video, so I'm going to be doing the follow up video on that,
yeah,
and basically sort of summarizing sort of again some of the things and the points that I've mentioned during this not live stream podcast. Just kind of like summarizing those really, and yeah, just kind of making the same points but in a more kind of structured kind of video format. Um, so yeah, but
yeah.
other than that, thank you.
Awesome.
If anyone has been listening and watching or listening all this time, thank you very much for listening, and yeah, take care. And I'll let Flyx finish it off.
Okay, yes. So, yep. Once again, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next podcast. So until then, bye bye.